What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to the Nick Beasley Show. This is the Crown Jewel Week Ahead preview with Big Mike of the Run In Wrestling Podcast. Big Mike, how are you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm good. I'm excited. You just watched SmackDown last night, which got me even more excited than I was for Crown Jewel. And I'm ready to get it over with next week. Ready to see what happens.
Yes, sir. I am looking forward to. I love like the daily shows, like when they do them, overseas. It's during the day for us, so it's a lot better. Your sleep schedule's not screwed up. It's great. Um, But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. The match I'm looking forward to the most is Cody Gunther. So we're gonna get right into it. Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the men's inaugural Crown Jewel Championship. I think that's I don't know what the name of that title is. I think it's the Crown Jewel Championship, but like I don't know. I don't think it's a great title. I was at Bad Blood when they uh showed the title to everybody. I didn't love it. I still don't love it. I think it should just be a match between those two. There's no need to have an extra title put into it. What's your opinion on the match?
The match itself, I think, is going to be amazing. Cody and Gunther, two of the best professional wrestlers, not only on WWE's roster but on in the world right now. I agree with you. I think the title is trash. Just the look of it itself. I don't think it needs it. You can have, and I get it. They had to do something special for the Saudi people. They wanted their own thing, kind of like they did with the Greatest Royal Rumble belt and some of the stuff that they've done there, just to give them kind of their special prize, I guess. So I get the marketing aspect of it, but the belt itself is just ugly. And I saw it, and I think they kind of on Monday Night Raw they had the white strap one, which I guess is for the women. And that thing is
Yeah,
huge. Could you imagine Liv Morgan winning that belt and trying to put it on, and it goes from like her chin to her knees, as big as that thing is, and as small as Liv Morgan is. It's
yeah,
gaudy as hell. But besides that, the match itself, Cody Rhodes and Gunther is going to be amazing. They've got the history at the Royal Rumble the past couple seasons. Cody Rhodes is the guy that has eliminated Gunther the past two Royal Rumbles, so you've got that history there beyond the title versus title. I'm surprised they haven't called back to it as much as WWE does.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it has the potential to be a match of the year.
That has surprised me. Maybe on Monday, because it'll be like the week of, they'll do the callback to like Gunther and Cody when Cody first won the Rumble 2 years ago, being the last two, being number one and number 30, and like Gunther brings up how he was able to outlast everybody while Cody came in last. He was fresh, and that's the only reason he won. I do think this title was made for Gunther, though, because I think with Cody, obviously, the prestige of the Undisputed Championship is already there because Roman held it for so long and coveted that title, and it was protected for 4 years. Now that Cody has it, the standard is there for that title, and Cody is being booked clearly as the biggest babyface. With the world title, it's a little different because that's a brand new title still kind of to the audience. You've only had really three champions, but four of you want to count Drew. You've had Seth, Drew, Damian, and now Gunther. I think Punk is probably next to hold that title. So I think this is for Gunther so that he can be like, I was the first this, and I'm going to create the standard for this. Because as far as I know, this isn't going to be a title that's defended. This is just going to be like you won this and you keep it. I it may be defended at at next year's Crown Jewel, but I don't think the champion of the Crown Jewel title defends the title throughout the year, like on different shows. I think
No,
this will
they don't.
just be kept for, yeah, it'll just be kept for Saudi, and I think Gunther has to win it. I'm also a Roman Reigns like stan, so I have a personal hatred for Cody because he took the title from Roman. But in an unbiased opinion, I do think Gunther wins it because just like what I said, like the world title isn't at the standard of excellence that the Universal title has been upheld to. Gunther is making it that, but you've had 4 champions in the span of a year with that title, and you've only had the 2 champions since the Undisputed title became a thing with Roman and Cody. So, I do think we get Gunther winning it. Um, but the next match up is, one of my I'm looking forward to this match so much. I really am. Nia versus Liv. I love Liv Morgan. Uh, I think she's great. Her character work is fantastic. The stuff she's doing right now with the Judgment Day and Dominic is just like some of the best work she's ever done in her career. And Nia the same way. What Nia's doing with Tiffany with the women's title on SmackDown, the way she's being booked and presented is excellent. I've absolutely loved watching Nia, which I never thought I would say a few years ago. Because a few years ago, when she got released, I wasn't as upset as some people. But I'm glad she's back. I'm glad she's finally getting to show her personality as well. Because I think that's something in the old regime that blocked not just Nia, but mainly all the women. Unless Vince really liked them, he just didn't let them show personality. He didn't let them be themselves. And I think now Triple H is letting all of the female talent show their personality, show what they can do in the ring, and just have fun out there. And I think that's what's making it so much more fun to watch Nia and Bailey and Naomi and Tiffany and like all of the talent that they have now. It's like now they have a personality to go along with what they're doing in the ring, so you can connect to them more. What's your opinion on this match between Nia and Liv?
So I'm actually looking forward to this too. I know Liv Morgan and Nia Jax have some history. They've wrestled a few times back when Nia was on Raw. There's a lot of outside factors. You've got the Judgment Day. You've got Raquel Rodriguez. More specifically, you've got Tiffany Stratton. Um, I actually think they're going to swerve everybody, and I think Nia actually pins Liv Morgan. I think she needs the win. Being Queen Nia and everything like that a little bit more. Um, and I think after that, I think this is where you get a Tiffany cash in. I think it's going to be a good match. I think Nia Jax will ultimately win. Maybe some Raquel Rodriguez, maybe after the match, kind of beat down angle just because she's mad that Liv got pinned or anything like that, and then Tiffany can come in and cash in. But I think ultimately Tiffany cashes in and leaves with not only I don't think she takes the Saudi title. I think that's kind of secondary. I'm not sure how they'll treat that, but they'd like to do these kind of angles on these shows to kind of give it a little bit more beef. And I think it's time. I think the way Tiffany's been doing, the way they've booked her the past few weeks, I think it's time for her to pin Nia. They can go and have a series of matches after this. Let Naomi and Bailey kind of go do some other stuff. Let Liv Morgan kind of finish her things with Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley may even get involved in the match, because she hasn't been billed for the show. And I know they like to have large shows or large stars on the Saudi shows since she's not technically in any of the other matches and they're trying to get as many people on. I would expect to see Rhea Ripley at some point, which could also cost Liv Morgan. But I'm ready for a Tiffany title run. I'm a huge Tiffany Stratton fan. Ever since her NXT days, her athleticism, as much as she's grown in the ring in the short amount of time that she's been there, has been awesome. Her new character is getting better. How they're kind of slowly turning her face with Nia kind of bullying her and now kind of pushing her out with Candice LeRae, I think is going to be interesting. But I think ultimately Nia pins Liv to win the Saudi championship to still make her look strong. But I think Tiffany cashes in and takes the championship to create some storylines going forward after that.
No, I completely agree with the Tiffany cash in like that. I've been thinking that was going to happen for a while. I don't think that they. It's kind of weird because like, how do you spin if Nia wins the crown jewel title and then Tiffany cashes in? Does the ref have to like make sure they say she's cashing in for the women's title only? Like, because if Nia is crown jewel champion and Tiffany pins her, then some of the fans might be confused, like, oh, did Tiffany just win the crown jewel title? I don't think Tiffany needs it. I think she does need that women's title, especially if she's about to be a baby face. And I mean, that's exactly where they're pushing her to. They're pushing her to be a face. And I'm also a huge Tiffany fan. I'll be honest. I didn't like her as much early on in her NXT days, and then when she won the NXT title, I thought it was a little too soon the first time because I thought, she's not ready, she hasn't been there long enough. And if I'm not mistaken, she pinned Roxanne Perez for it, who was
I think so.
kind of yeah, who was kind of being vaulted as, like, the next to go up and be called up. And then but like you said, her athleticism, she's extremely gifted. She has great character work when they let her talk. And I think a lot of her promos are honestly on the fly, and she just comes up with them. I don't think a lot of her stuff is really scripted. I think she just works with she works off of whoever she's working with. So like with Nia, uh, Liv, Rhea, any of them, she kind of just lets them go, and then she'll just work off of that. And I think it works for her character. I do think that she has to cash in after the match. I don't think you do the cash in during it because then it turns into a triple threat, and then she could technically pin Liv by mistake. Like a complete
Mhm.
accident could happen, and she could end up pinning Liv. Like we've seen that in wrestling when somebody's supposed to get pinned and they don't because of an accident or a mistake, or they're supposed to kick out, but they don't, so the ref has to call an audible. So I do think Tiffany cashes in for sure. I think she does cash in on Nia, and I think Nia wins it because, like you said, that belt is gonna look huge on Liv anyway. So it almost feels like that belt was made for Nia. Plus, kind of similar with the world title and the women's title. Same with the men. The world title kind of has the history behind it because Rhea had it for so long that now the women's title needs something to help it, and I think Nia needs that. I also I could see this happening. I think there is a small chance that Charlotte returns at the end of the Saudi show or at the end of that match, however wherever they book that match to be. Uh, just because like they've kind of been teasing it a little bit with like people like really fans started this, but I think WWE's picked up on it. Like we want to see Tiffany versus Charlotte
Yep.
at
Yeah.
some point. So I think they are definitely pushing for Charlotte when she returns to go after Tiffany, but I could see them having her go after Liv because if you'll remember the callback to when it was Charlotte and Rhea, the line about Andrade to Dominic being the real Latino man. I think they could bring Andrade in on this and have Charlotte and Andrade versus Dominic and Liv like a mixed tag match or something. I think they could really work that angle. Uh, I
Yeah, the only thing I would
see
say about
Charlotte though
that is
going,
the only thing I would think about that is with them both being on SmackDown, maybe you do that as an angle for Survivor Series itself, but after Survivor Series, they'd obviously have to go their separate ways there until the draft. If
yeah,
you want to draft them on the same side, and with Andrade and Charlotte being married, you obviously they're going to try to put them on the same show, just because that's what they've done behind
yeah,
the scenes. Um, but yeah, and plus the live thing is already really messy. So I think adding Charlotte Flair into that, maybe after the Rhea kind of goes, they could do that. Um, but yeah, but definitely if you wanted to try to shoot something for Survivor Series just to let her have Charlotte Flair kind of have something come back for her return before she goes after the title, that would be something cool.
yeah. I just thought of that because like the line of like Charlotte telling Dominic that she has a real Latino man at home that calls her mommy, and then it be
Mhm.
Andrade, and then Andrade and Dominic. I honestly want to see Andrade versus Dominic because I think that'd be really good for Dominic. And I think Andrade is one of the best workers in the business. He doesn't get the respect that he is due. But I do think him versus Dominic could be fantastic. Plus, Andrade's got the history with Ray and the LWO, so that would
Mhm.
add into it. I believe at WrestleMania it was Andrade and Ray, but I don't think we saw Dominic actually like lock up with Andrade. I could be wrong on that. I don't think
Well,
we
you had
actually
the
saw
whole
Dominic and
angle.
Andrade.
You had the whole angle where Dragon Lee got hurt, and they brought in Andrade, which is kind of one of the catalyst of Carlito's turn, is because that's one of the reasons they kept getting
Yeah,
other people other than Carlito. So they did bring him in, and I think that was the tag match with Santos and Dominic, but I don't know how much interaction they had. I don't remember the the full match itself, but they did have a little bit of interaction, but I would imagine it's probably not much because that match was obviously focused
Yeah,
on Dom and Ray.
yeah, I think they might have locked up maybe once or twice, but I don't think it was for a long time. And then you also had, Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson jump the barricade and attack Dominic, so that took him out anyway. But like you said, that was more or less focused on we want to do Ray versus Dominic again. We just can't do one on one because we've already done it. So we'll just do a tag match, figure something out with Santos and Andrade. Uh, we'll have Carlito take out Dragon Lee to try to get that spot. Then Carlito doesn't get that spot, and then it ultimately leads to Carlito's turn. So, and that was mainly centered around Carlito turning on Ray, and then Ray and Dominic having another match at Mania. Because I genuinely think that'll probably be the last match that those two have at Mania. They could have another match this year if it's going to be when Ray retires, and they do
Yeah,
like
he
mask
talked about
versus
that
hair,
on an in
or is
yeah,
like
they did something like that
yeah,
on an he talked about it on an interview with Chris Van Vliet just recently, how he wants to be able to do that at some point.
yeah. I do wonder if they do that, and the mask of Ray comes off, and we all see what he looks like again because we've all seen what he looks like. It's kind of hard to hide it with social media. Uh, and they've done it before, like back in the '90s, they did it.
Mhm.
With him and Eddie, I think. I do wonder, does that mean that Dominic takes o because there was a pitch for Dominic to potentially take the Mask of Ray and become Prince Mysterio and, like, repackage himself. I don't know if they do that now because he's so over as a heel that I feel like repackaging him would ultimately end up hurting him more.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to do something like that, maybe I don't see them doing it because he's so over right now as a heel. And I think the only way you get to where the fans will want him to be, like, in Ray's mask is if he makes amends with Ray before Ray retires. But I don't think that happens either because if that's his retirement match and Dominic beats him, the fans are never going to forgive him. Just like the fans have never forgave Baron Corbin for beating Kurt Angle in his retirement.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I
I
think
have.
you can do that, but I don't think Ray's ready to retire anytime soon. I think he's gonna go a couple more years, so maybe WrestleMania 45-ish, you could lean into that, because that
Ew.
gives Dom a lot of
I think,
time to establish, or yeah, or at
yeah.
least 2 or 3 more years, but I don't think Ray's ready to hang it up just yet.
No, I don't think he is either. I'm just thinking like his age and like maybe he wants to retire to go like, you know, spend time with his wife because now both of the kids are out of the house. So
Yeah.
that's really where my mindset is like maybe he just wants to retire. He doesn't have to. Or maybe he does like Brian Danielson did and retires from full-time competition, but he'll come in sporadically like Undertaker did, like Kane has done in the past. Like The Rock does, comes in every once in a while, but technically Rock didn't
Yeah.
retire. He just went and did movies, so I don't think he's actually officially retired. I could be wrong, but I don't think he is.
I don't think he ever announced it. I mean, him and John Cena were kinda in the same boat. They didn't necessarily quit wrestling, they went over to do something else for a little while. It's kinda how they framed it. So, yeah, neither one of them have actually ever announced a retirement.
Well, now Cena has, though, like, he's let us know 2025, that's gonna be it. He's gonna go on
Yeah.
this last run, have this last year, and then he'll be done. Which, the Rumble coming to Indianapolis, me and my friends have been talking, we really wanna go to that show because it's only like a 7-hour drive, and it'd be super fun. Plus, it'd be Cena's last Rumble. Uh, plus, it could be a lot of bloodline stuff like Roman and Solo or Roman and Jacob. I want to say Roman and Jacob. I know they crossed paths of Bad
Sounds
Blood,
good to
but they
me.
didn't really. They crossed paths of Bad Blood, but a tag match is completely different than a one-on-one scenario. And I think we need that one-on-one Roman versus Jacob eventually. But let's move on to the next match here: Seth Rollins versus Big Bronson Reed. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a fan of this feud. I think it lost all. carryover when they wrote Seth off TV because they brought him back too early. He wasn't fully healed, so they had to write him off TV so he could get fully healed up. Now they're trying to pick up steam, and I think everybody's just like at this point, we don't want to see a feud with Bronson. We just want to see him go after everybody individually and just take the entire roster out. Like we just got over the Braun Strowman stuff, and now we're moving on to Seth, and I don't think it fits because I don't think Seth and Bronson had the steam. I mean, they can pick it up. Like if they like Monday, if they do something crazy, it'll pick it up for the match. But I just don't see them being able to do it this close to the pay-per-view. I think if they had pushed it back, made it a little later, maybe make it Survivor Series, carry the feud on for a little bit longer, then you could have that heat on Seth and Bronson, and it could actually work. I just think, I mean, Seth's been back for what, 2, 3 weeks at this point,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah, a couple
we've
weeks.
seen we've seen Bronson literally make a car shatter its windows, putting Braun Strowman through it, and now we're supposed to believe it's Seth Rollins, who's a great technical wrestler, can destroy Bronson Reed in a match. Like I just don't. They've made Bronson seem like almost unbeatable at this point, in my opinion. What's your opinion on Seth and Bronson?
So I actually love this feud. The fact that, and I get the fact writing Seth Rollins off may have cooled it, but it cooled it from Seth Rollins' side. It built Bronson Reed up into what Bronson Reed is now. Without the Seth annihilation and sending him off, if Seth Rollins would have come back next week, it wouldn't have been as much of an impact from Bronson Reed as it is him being gone as long as he was. You could have kept him
Right,
off a little longer. He could have easily won that Bronson or that Braun Strowman match, and then maybe have Seth Rollins attack him backstage a week or two later. Um, but I don't think this is going to be the only match in the feud. I think kind of what you're saying, kind of building more heat to a different match. I think this is the beginning of at least a 2 or 3 match series. I think Bronson Reed wins it because I think you want to keep him strong. I think Seth will ultimately win the feud just because it's Seth Rollins. You want to keep him as
right,
strong as possible because he's one of the faces of your company. But I think Bronson Reed kind of almost destroys him here. Um, and then you get it going forward where Seth Rollins has to come back and kind of build himself back up and become more of a serious character other than the funny dressing, which he's already started doing. I don't know if you've noticed the past couple weeks, he hasn't come out in as loud of clothing and suits and stuff. It's been more muted
yeah,
tones, more understated, more of a serious side. Not that Seth Rollins
right,
hasn't been serious in the past, but I think Bronson Reed takes this. I think it builds more of that heat that you're talking about. But I understand them having to do it in the beginning. One, because Seth was hurt, and two, if Seth Rollins had just come back the next week and cut a promo on somebody else after Bronson Reed taking him out, it doesn't make as much of an impact as Bronson Reed because right there you took out Seth Rollins. He's one of the company favorites. You took out R-Truth, who's a company favorite. Now you had the thing with Braun Strowman, and I didn't agree with the way that match ended. The last Monster Standing, I think Braun Bronson should have won that. Um, but leading into this, it makes sense storyline wise for Seth Rollins to kind of come in and cost him. But I think this is a great feud. I think it highlights Bronson Reed, somebody who's kind of milled around since he's been re-signed and come back. He's done a little bit here and there with the Intercontinental title, but not a lot. And this made him a name. This made him a star, really. So I mean, it's only going to be out for him, even if he loses the feud ultimately and looks strong and beats the crap out of Seth Rollins a couple times in between there, because ultimately Seth Rollins is the architect. He is going to figure out a way to win in the end. But making Bronson Reed look like a monster and then having him maybe go after the Intercontinental title with Braun Breaker, that makes a credible title contender for him. And Bronson Reed, and that would be a match I'd pay to see Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker.
yeah.
Uh, but definitely, I definitely don't think this is the end of their feud. But Bronson Reed, I think, takes it here in Saudi.
I think Bronson does need this match. I agree with you. I think he takes it, and I think he close to near kills Seth. In order to do it, I kind of hope Monday they make this like a last man standing thing so that way Bronson can be as destructive and as vicious as he needs to be in this match. Because again, like you said, Seth is not only one of the company favorites, he's one of Triple H's like original guys from NXT. So Triple H isn't gonna book Seth to look weak unless it makes the story make sense. And in a singles match, just one on one, I don't think he makes Seth look weak. I think they need it to be last man standing to make Seth feel like, you know, just look almost depleted and destroyed by Bronson in the end of it, and he just physically can't stand back up. I do think they need to do that. I do think Bronson wins this, and I'm gonna say something costly here. I kind of disagree with you. I think Bronson wins the feud because I think Bronson needs the feud more. Because we know what's next for Seth is gonna be Punk.
Mhm.
That's what's gonna happen. They teased it already when Punk came out after the match at Bad Blood the next night on Raw, and he was letting people know he was gonna go away for a while. They teased that interaction with Seth and Punk when Seth came out. I think they need this for Bronson to win the feud so that he can then go and be like he's now not only defeated a former world champion, but he's destroyed a former world champion. And maybe he can be, I'll take a step further. Maybe it elevates him so much that he can be a contender for Gunther for the world title.
Right.
Because that'd be a match I'd love to see. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about just chopping the crap out of each other. That's what Bronson and Gunther would do. I mean, so that I think this feud is to elevate Bronson to see if one, the fans connect with him enough, and two, can he work a former world champion in a real situation and make it look credible so that they can go and do something with Gunther and Bronson. Because I think Braun Breaker and Ilya Dragunov obviously were going to be the plan, but now with everything happening on SmackDown with the Bloodline, they had to put the title back on Braun Breaker. Ilya is going to be out for at least a year, I think, with the torn
Yeah, for sure.
ACL. So you need somebody on Raw that can really contend. Punk's not back yet. I don't think Seth needs to just go take the world title. I know they're wanting to do Damian again. I think at this point, Damian doesn't need the world title again. I think he's a credible opponent because he's a former world champion. I think you could do something with Drew going after Gunther.
Mhm.
Sheamus could go after Gunther, but I do think Bronson is the guy that the fans would attach themselves to say, yeah, that's the guy we could legitimately see beating Gunther. Because all those other guys, they're also a little bit older. They're veteran guys. They understand the importance of a younger talent getting the opportunity, getting the chance to be the next guy. They're kind of setting up for who the next guy will be, and I think Bronson could easily be one of those next guys. So I think he actually wins this feud. Um, let's move on to the next match, though. We've got Randy Orton versus Kevin, the greatest of all time, Owens.
Oh,
And
I'm
I
so
only
glad you
say
said
that,
that.
yeah, hold on. I only say that because, again, being at Bad Blood, we didn't get to see it, but we saw the video footage. Cody's bus was like right near where we parked. So we were
Okay.
so close to seeing Kevin just destroy Cody. And again, as a Roman fan, seeing Cody miserable makes me happy. So I am perfectly fine with Kevin destroying Cody. Now, him putting his hand on Randy was completely different because I'm also a huge Randy Orton fan. What are your thoughts on Randy versus Kevin going into this match at Crown Jewel?
So I will start this by saying, much like you are a Roman stan, I am a Kevin Owens
Right.
stan. Kevin Owens is my favorite wrestler, maybe my second favorite wrestler of all time behind Kurt Angle, but very close. Kevin Owens is my favorite wrestler going right now today. Um, I initially didn't like the way they did the heel turn behind the scenes at Bad Blood. I wanted that to be on TV so they could get a crowd reaction, but I like the way they have done it since, with him releasing the video from his car, coming in and getting the mic cut. I think that's been really cool. and now the turn on Randy Orton after the accidentally hit him and then Randy Orton punched him and then they fought again backstage to kind of keep that backstage segment kind of going. And then everything that happened last night, the way Triple H sold Kevin Owens, the way he said, "Hey, I'm not protecting Kevin Owens. I'm protecting you, Randy, because I don't know what Kevin Owens is going to do." That's the Kevin Owens that I like the most, as much as I love him. And I said this on somebody's show a couple weeks ago. Kevin Owens is a good babyface, but Kevin Owens is a all-time great heel. And with him
Oh
turning
yeah, for
heel,
sure.
he has to win this, otherwise it makes no sense him turning. Um, and I think what this does is that he beats Randy Orton. Maybe you get Cody Rhodes coming out to kind of protect Randy Orton because he's beating him after the match, so it sets up Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes at Survivor Series. Uh, and going back to that Gunther Cody Rhodes match, you could easily have Kevin Owens come in and cost Cody Rhodes to give Gunther the Crown Jewel Championship and maybe at least interfere or jump him after the
Yeah.
match to kind of forward that angle as well. But definitely Kevin Owens should win this. I'm ready for a heel Kevin Owens again. I'm ready for full on smash mouth Kevin Steen style heel Kevin Owens. And I that this is the match I'm most excited for again because I just love Kevin Owens so much and especially heel version. And I like Randy Orton, but there's no way he should win this match.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. Kevin has to win this, and like you said, Kevin as a babyface is good. Kevin as a heel is like elite. Like when Kevin turned heel on when Kevin turned heel on Sami Zayn in NXT, that was
Mhm.
my favorite version of Kevin. After that, the heel Kevin is like the best version of him. I think he's fantastic. I think he's a great talent. I think he needed to turn heel because it was kind of getting stale. Him keep chasing the bloodline, chasing Roman for the 4 years that he did it, kind of got boring and stale and lazy. I think you have a situation here now where it's like Triple H said, Kevin feels like Randy and Cody turned on him. He doesn't
Yep.
feel that he turned on them, which is absolutely the right way to do this because for a year, Kevin and Sammy helped Cody beat Roman and best the bloodline, and now Cody's just like, yeah, I'm gonna trust Roman. And Randy asking Cody like, why are you doing this? Why are you trusting Roman? Well, because you know he gave me his word, and he's never lied before, and that is true. Roman has always kept his word and did what he said he was gonna do. Um, like he said, if he lost at WrestleMania 40, we wouldn't see him after that, and we didn't see him again until SummerSlam. And the only reason he's come back is for Seth, or not for Seth, for Solo. And he
Mhm.
hasn't really focused in on Cody yet. He will eventually, and it'll be great because I want to see a trilogy between Roman and Cody. And as much as I am a Roman stan and absolutely love Roman, I do not believe that Roman needs to beat Cody. I think Cody needs to win that third match because at this point in his career, Roman's got the long title reign. I don't think he needs another title. If you want to give him another title, you can give him the Intercontinental Championship or the U.S. title. But at this point in his career, also, I think he's way past that. I think at this point, Roman's just about elevating his family and making sure that, after he's gone, because I think he's like 38, 39 years old, so he's close to about ready to retire, I believe. Once he's gone, I think he's just trying to make sure that his family is going to be taken care of and going to still be on top. So I think that's all that matters to Roman at this point. And I think, like you said with Randy, Randy's also at that kind of back end of his career, and he knows that. Like he
Mhm.
knows his back, he knows the risks that come with wrestling with a bad back. He understands all of that. So I do think Kevin needs to win this, not only this match, but I think he needs to win the feud, not only with Randy but with Cody as well. and that does mean taking the title off Cody, putting it on Kevin, because it's also a lot easier to book a heel champion than it is to book a babyface, as they have proven because they don't have a single plan for Cody, and they haven't had one. They they legitimately came out and said, like, it was reported the day after Mania, after Cody won the title, "Yeah, we have no plan." Well, then why did you take the title off Roman? And the
Mhm.
only reason I can come up with is because the fans were some fans, not all fans, because I wasn't, but some fans were tired of Roman as champion and wanted something fresh, and Cody gave them that freshness. That's the only thing I can come up with. But yeah, man, I think, like you said, Kevin needs to win this match for sure. Otherwise, what they've been doing with him, the character development, him actually using social media to his advantage, all of it makes no sense if he doesn't beat Randy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and something else to keep an eye on. I actually saw this right before we went on air, or right before we started this.
Right.
Watch for other character development around this as well. Apparently, Fightful just released an interview with Montez Ford where he actually mentions Kevin Owens and how they've been going with Kevin Owens and the bloodline and things like that. Maybe there's a shift in the Street Profits or at least Montez Ford as well, maybe turning heel with this same vein. So this also could go into other people who have been fighting the bloodline with Cody, with Randy, with KO over the past year or two, kind of feeling that same way. Hey, I'm betrayed by Cody now because you're teaming up with these guys. This may not stop with Kevin Owens. You may get to see a couple other heel turns that we've been waiting on seeing, like maybe the Street Profits or Montez Ford. You know, so other character development around what Kevin Owens has started.
My only pushback on not Montez, but the Street Profits as a tag team turning heel is they tried that with Bobby Lashley, and the fans just didn't want it. I think if it's just Montez, like maybe it's something similar like what the New Day's doing right now with Kofi and Woods, where like Kofi is still trying to help everybody, be everybody's friend, take care of everybody, and then Woods is like, nah, no, we're not doing that. We're not helping. I'm tired of losing. You think I'm not good enough because I'm not a former world champion, like that kind of thing. I think Montez turning heel makes most sense because fans have wanted Montez as a heel. I think you could have Dawkins be the one that's like, no, we don't need to get involved. We need to stay away from this. We don't need to do this. We don't need to attack Cody. Cody's our friend. Like I think that would work out better. And then maybe you split the Street Profits and have Montez as a heel because I don't think fans want Cody or fans want Angelo Dawkins to turn heel because I think the fans see the potential in Angelo to be a big baby face, but similar to Jade and Bianca, we don't want Jade to turn heel. We want Bianca to do it like we've wanted for a while. We don't want Angelo to turn heel. We just want it to be Montez. And then maybe we get a heel couple with Montez and Bianca because they'd be both heels at that point and it would fit. And then you could bring in Naya or, one of the Tongan sisters to feud with Bianca and be on
Mhm.
Roman's side and be on the like you could bring in a female to this bloodline and I think it would work.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not
But
sure. I
I
mean,
think
obviously,
that
I don't know who it would be other than Nia now. I mean, you've got Naomi on the periphery, but she's never really been that serious of a character. I mean, they had her as a heel with Team Bad with Sasha and Tamina back in the day, but
yeah.
I mean, she's really her and Nia are really the only ones that fit the bloodline part of it. Unless you bring in, the Tongan twins, the female twins that are out in the Indies now, you could do that. But I don't know that enough people know them that would make an impact. People indie fans knew, you know, Tamatonga and both of those guys as God. They know people like Hikaleo. They knew Jacob for a little bit right before because he was starting to get big. I don't know that enough people know the female Tongan twins enough that they would make a
Yeah,
huge impact. But I just the bloodline needs to stay kind of where it's at. I don't really want Nia or Naomi get involved in that. I would rather just see them doing their own thing. I think Naomi definitely needs to get pushed more. That's a whole different story. But
Yeah,
not
we can get
not in
into
the
that
instance of a
later.
bloodline. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I agree with you. Like, you mentioned Nia and like they tried to, or Naomi, and they tried to do the heel thing with Sasha and Tamina. I do wonder because, like you said, she obviously is part of the family. She's got the connection being married to Jimmy. Maybe if she's with Jimmy, and then it's Jimmy and Naomi versus Montez and Bianca, it could fit because I think Jimmy would help Naomi with that push that she needs because they're obviously not going to let him fall. So if she's with him, they're going to elevate her as well. Plus, if she's working Bianca, that's bigger than what she's doing now. I just kind of thought of that because fans have wanted to see Bianca turn heel for a
Yeah.
while, and fans have wanted to see Montez turn heel, so that could work. But like you said, I don't think right now, especially, they need to bring that in. I think they can leave it along for now. But I think eventually you do need a female involved in the bloodline, especially if there's going to be a situation where a Montez turns heel and then Bianca joins him. You would need somebody to kind of work Bianca in that story, kind of like how the Wyatt Six are right now. They've been
Mhm.
getting Scarlett ready because she's going to be the one working Nikki in this feud between them and the final. Is it the Final Testament? Is that the name of Karrion's group?
It's the Final Testament. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be real. When they're on screen, I kind of just black out. I don't really pay attention to. I like Cross and I like AOP, but I don't like them together. If that makes sense. Like I don't see
Mm.
the fit there. But let's get into this other match here, which I am extremely excited for. Hold on, L.A. Knight, yeah,
Yeah.
versus Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes. I'll be honest. I think Carmelo wins. I think they pull the trigger. I like LA Knight. I think he needs the title, but I think they have been building Carmelo up. I think he wins, and I think to protect LA Knight, he pins Andrade so that LA Knight doesn't get hurt from the pin, and they can have a feud between Melo and LA Knight for the title. I it, Regardless of who wins, I think Andrade takes the pin. I think that's the only reason he's in this is to protect Melo and LA Knight from not taking the pin. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense why he's in it to me because I don't see him as U.S. champion right now. Like I said, I kind of see him going off when Charlotte gets back and doing something with her more than I see him actually being a single star with a U.S. title. And I love Andrade. He's a great worker. I just think they've built up so many other talent that he's kind of put on the back burner. What are your thoughts on this match? Because this is a match that you told me about that I didn't even realize was happening until last night.
Yeah, they kinda made it because they had the quote unquote game 7 on SmackDown last night with LA Knight was the guest referee, and there was somebody hit LA Knight by accident, so of course LA Knight didn't like that, so he started hitting both of them and attacking both of them, and then Nick Aldis really put this as more of a punishment to LA Knight just for ruining that match, that it's gonna be a triple threat for the US title. I agree with you. I think Carmelo wins, but I think it's only because he's the heel. And I think what will happen is Andrade will probably end up taking the pin. LA Knight will do, his finisher on Andrade, go for the pin, and Carmelo comes in and throws him out and gets the pin himself. It'll be one of those heel wins where you don't necessarily where LA Knight still looks strong, like you said, where he actually looks the strongest in the match, but Carmelo Hayes sneaks in and takes it at the last minute just because it fits his heel character. And I don't see Andrade. I mean, LA Knight could probably do that just because he's kind of a tweener. And just because the fans have gotten behind him, he still has some heel tendencies in his character. But I
Right.
think it just fits Carmelo Hayes. I think it would give the US title kind of a refresh. Because I mean, LA Knight just kind of coming out and saying the same stuff every month or every week, as much as I like LA Knight, you put a different face on it, put a different spin on it. Have Carmelo come out. You know, let LA Knight go back. They can have their rematch at Survivor Series 1-on-1 if you want LA Knight to take it back. You know, you could do that and let them have kind of a little mini series, maybe not 7, but let them have a couple of matches together. And to kind of go back to the previous point, you talked about, you know, something with Andrade and Charlotte Flair. We just talked about maybe Montez and Bianca being a team. There's your team that could fight off Montez and Bianca is Charlotte and Andrade. So you've got 2 married couples going at each other. Charlotte and Bianca have had some history. You know, that would be a good match there for Andrade to go off and do just to kind of, you know, put those 2 together. But definitely I think Carmelo Hayes gets a sneaky heel win and goes into the next pay-per-view as the champion and probably against LA Knight with a rematch since he never pinned him.
Yeah, I just don't see Melo leaving without that title, honestly, because
Mhm.
they've tried with LA Knight, obviously, and I mean he's got the connection with the audience, but I don't think people are taking him seriously because of who he beat for the title. I think if he had beat like a veteran in the business, then I could see them taking him more seriously as champion. I don't think they take him seriously right now because, and this is not a shot at Logan Paul. I'm actually a huge Logan fan, at least in WWE. Outside of WWE, what he does is a different story. We're not going to get into that because we are talking wrestling. So the only reason I bring him up is because of his wrestling. He's a great worker. Logan's a great worker. He can work a match really well. I just think because of who LA Knight beat, they don't. The fans are looking at it like, yeah, but you beat Logan. Like, you beat the guy that has only been doing it really for 2 years and hasn't really earned that respect of us yet.
Mhm.
Um, so I do think Melo has to win. We get into this last match here, and this is another match that I did not think was happening, but I am so glad it is. I'm actually glad that Triple H has added matches instead of just sticking with the 5 format. He's actually adding some more matches for the card, and I'm really glad that we're getting at least 2 women's matches and that multiple women will be involved in the card. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Damage Control versus Metaphor versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Who do you? It's hard to call it. I can see. I think this could be a great place to turn Jade and have her take out Bianca because
It
it's not going to go over well with the Saudi crowd because they love Bianca. It's not going to go over well with the American crowd because they love Bianca. You could turn Jade or Bianca here, and either one is going to be, you know, it's going to help them and it's going to sting for fans, whoever gets turned on. I don't think Damage Control wins back the titles because Dakota Kai's not there, and I don't think that they want Damage Control to do anything really without Dakota. Metaphor, obviously, they're not even called up, so I don't think they're part of this. I think they're probably there just to take the pin. So do you have Chelsea and Piper win back the titles? It's a hard match to call because on paper it looks like, oh, Jade and Bianca will definitely win it, but it could go to any of these other teams. I think other than Metaphor, because I really think they're only there to take the pin.
So,
So,
kind of the same vein as what we talked about in the last match, and I don't know, you know, WWE's notorious for doing the same finish a couple times. I could see Chelsea and Piper winning it the same way I saw Carmelo winning the US title. You know, the same way that the Unholy Union won the title the first time, where Bianca and Cargill do the work. Maybe, yeah, and I agree with you on the part where I think not necessarily the metaphor. I think Jakara Jackson is here to take the pin. I think of any of the 8 people in this match, I think Jakara Jackson has the biggest chance of taking the pin, just
oh
because
yeah,
they've
for
made
sure.
Last Legend look a little stronger. I think they want her to look better. And she'll get the power moves with, you know, slamming her slamming Piper like she did the other day in her singles debut. But and they I see in the comments they have been doing a lot of good work as a metaphor, and I think they will get called up, you know, on a regular basis here soon. It's good to see NXT involved in it. Is there still technically an NXT team? This technically gets a team from every brand against your champion, so it's kind of a brand representation outside of Survivor Series because
Yeah,
you got Damage Control for Raw, Chelsea and Piper from SmackDown, Metaphor from NXT, all going up against your champions. So I think that's a really cool
right,
aspect
yeah.
of it. I hope Chelsea and Piper win because let's be honest, outside of main event scene, Chelsea is the face of the women's division, not named Liv, Rhea, or or whatever the champion is over on SmackDown. She's kind of carried the
Nia,
women's.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, or I'm not just Nia, even before Nia when Bailey was champion, because obviously your
yeah.
champion is the face, but Chelsea has been that person who's been the workhorse, gone to NXT, done all the stuff there, built people up there. So I would love to see her get her flowers, her and Piper Niven, and actually get a title run. I think whenever they bring mid card titles in, I always said Chelsea should be the first one to win the women's US title over on SmackDown. Uh, so I actually think I would love to see them get a sneaky win, and I think they would do so much with the titles going to every brand. The more Chelsea Green you get on your screen, the better because she's the most entertaining female on the roster. Not necessarily the best overall, but she's the most entertaining person to see on your screen in the female division. So I really hope they take the win. I don't know that it'll happen, but I'm going to go with my heart on this one and say that they take the win.
No, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Plus, you mentioned, like, the entertaining part. Could you imagine Chelsea Green as a champion? Just the idea of her character being a champion would be fantastic, and I would absolutely love it. I mean, I love Chelsea. I liked Chelsea her first kind of run that she had in WWE. I liked
Mhm.
her when she went on to do TNA and do other things. Like, obviously, I'm also a big fan of her husband, Matt Cardona.
Yep.
So I could genuinely see Chelsea and Piper winning. But here's the question, though. So you see, obviously, Jakara Jackson taking the pin. Do you see them staying on screen with Jade and Bianca and having one of them turn? Or do you think they just walk off, let Chelsea and Piper have their moment, and forget the turn? Because I think right now is the prime perfect time for them to turn Jade or Bianca. And I think it needs to be Bianca because Jade is still fresh to the main roster. She's still fresh to WWE. And Bianca, the fans have been basically begging for a heel turn for the better part of 2 years at this point.
So I don't think they do the turn altogether right here. Triple H has been has has shown in the past that he's going to let it slow burn. So you may see some seeds of it here. You may see some arguing at the end of why you didn't get the pin. Whoever I think last time it was Jade Cargo who got thrown out after she hit her finisher. Maybe you do the same thing with Bianca
Yeah.
this time. Maybe this time Bianca gets thrown out of the ring after hitting KOD or something like that. And then maybe you see some arguing with them going to the back, and you kind of focus on that, but let Chelsea and Piper have their shot or have their moment.
Yeah.
But I definitely think this starts the process of the turn. Triple H has never, not or not say never, not normally recently been one to just kind of hit it on the head and go. Like we talked about with Kevin Owens being behind the scenes, like we talked about with the Randy Orton thing being behind the scenes, attacking them. I think they're going to slow burn it, just like they've done with a lot of other things. And, but I will disagree with one thing. I actually think that Jade needs to be the heel in this feud. Not necessarily for any character development, but I think her in-ring style, what fits her best, that ground and pound style that she's better at, fits being a heel better. I think Bianca being the quicker, being the more agile, can do some more stuff off the top rope, things like that. More what people would quote unquote see as face maneuvers. I think
Yeah.
bodes better for her. I think if you want to elevate Jade Cargill, you make her the heel in this feud and just let her beat Bianca to death. Be that monster heel female that we've been looking for. You've called Raquel Rodriguez that, but she's just not as believable in my eyes as that, just because of some of the other stuff going on. Jade Cargill could be that. could be
Yeah.
that monster China-like heel back in the day and just beat everybody down.
I mean, I could see that happening. Um, I don't know, man. I feel like because the fans have been begging for it to be Bianca, and look, I was of the mindset a year ago that like they look at Bianca as the female John Cena for like the little kids.
Mhm.
They're never gonna pull the trigger. They're gonna do her exactly like they did Cena. He'll never turn heel. She's never gonna be a heel. But the fans have been begging for it. But you mentioned Triple H doesn't usually just skip from one thing to another. He literally just did that last night. I mean, we
Good
had
point.
Monday Jay tell Roman, no yeet, I'm not helping. Fast forward, you have Jay lose the IC title to Braun Breaker because of Bloodline. Well, let's call it what it was. Because Jacob Fatu was a monster and just decided he was going to show up and kill Jay. Um, which, by the way, Braun Breaker versus Jacob Fatu has to happen. Has
Yeah.
to happen at some point. That match would make so much money. I would buy the pay per view, or not buy the pay per view. I would watch that pay per view just for the match. I don't care what
Oh,
else is on that
100%.
card. If I see Braun versus Jacob on a pay per view, sure. Yeah, in fact, you can charge me a pay per view price. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Actually, WWE don't do that. I like what you're doing right now. Please don't revert back to that. Don't do what AEW is doing and charging us $50 to watch a pay per view when there's really only like one or two matches I'm interested in on that card. But you know I'm gonna buy it because I'm interested in those two matches. Um,
I could see them
but
doing
no,
that for day one Netflix, the first show on Netflix, maybe have Jacob and Braun for that since they wanna make it a big show.
yeah, I think the Bloodline's definitely involved in that first episode of
Yeah.
Netflix for sure. Because they've already kind of, I don't know if you saw, but the Netflix, the banner that like they put out and stuff has Solo and Jay and Roman and all them on
Mhm.
it. So that tells me right there they're going to be on the first Raw. Plus, I mean, they're going to have Cena on there, so you've got history with the Bloodline with Cena,
Mhm.
so you could do something there. Um, I don't know, man. Like I thought, and buddy of mine that I had on my podcast a couple days ago, we went through it and we both said like Jay doesn't need to go right back to the bloodline. We need that slow, methodical build of Roman having to almost quote unquote bend the knee to Jay and be like, I'm sorry. I messed up. I made mistakes. I was focused on the title. I was focused on trying to keep our family together, and I went about it the wrong way. And I'm sorry. We need your help. And they didn't do that, and that it kind of irritates me that, like, we got the moment with Jimmy and Jay because now we know, well, if the Usos are back together, that just means that Roman's gonna Jay's gonna just fall back in line, and he's gonna be back with the bloodline, and I didn't want that for Jay, because Jay has grown so much as a character
Mhm.
that I think this is going to everything they've spent the better part of a year building. The line that Jimmy said about how Jay went off and became tag team champions without him. The the run he had with Cody, the feud he had, the matches he had for the world title with Damian and the Judgment Day, the stuff he did with Braun Breaker, the all of that I feel like got blown up last night when Jay comes out, and I didn't mind him attacking the Bloodline. I did not mind him attacking um, Tama and Tonga because those are the dude. Well, technically not, but they were. It was the Bloodline that took his title from him, so he
Yeah.
wanted to take their titles from them. By the way, shout out the real tribal chief Tonga Loa. You know, botch botch Loa. Um, it feels weird. It feels weird to me that Jay is just like, yeah, cool. So I'll hug Jimmy. We'll hug it out. And we're just back to rolling. I didn't like that. What did you think of the ending last night? Because I personally, with Roman looking on and Jimmy and Jay in the ring, you know, locked hands and they're looking back at Roman. I did not like that.
Yeah, I'm actually the same. In my point really was more just for heel turns and stuff like that. How the same kind of thing what they're doing with Xavier Woods, things like that. But as far
Yeah,
as last night's concerned, I would have much rather, like you said, Jay come in, cost the bloodline the tag titles, than Jimmy get in the ring and try to give him a hug and Jay just walk away. Kind of, and then he could come back next Friday and kind of promo said, "Man, I didn't do this for you. I did this for the family. They cost me. I did this for me. I did this for my family.
right,
I didn't do this for Roman. I didn't do this for you. This isn't about you. I came
right.
in, they cost me my intercontinental title, and now I've cost them that. Now we're even. Fast forward to the Monday, and then they attack him again, and then you have that forced kind of entrance to where maybe Jimmy and Roman come out and save Jay as they're beating him up, which kind of brings them back together. Um,
Yeah,
but I agree. And I noticed they didn't have Roman in the ring with Jay and Jimmy, so maybe there's still going to be some of that contrition from Roman Reigns on next week's SmackDown. Because I did hear and this is a rumor that I read on the internet, so take it with a,
yeah,
a ton of salt. That they're actually planning a rumored Roman, Jimmy, and Jay versus Solo and the Tongans at Crown Jewel. So I don't know if that's going to be set up next week or
yeah,
how that's going to happen. I think next week has already been taped. I've seen a few video spoilers online, which I won't get into
yeah.
just
I've
because I
seen
don't
them
want to
too.
ruin anybody else's day. So, but I hope there's more contrition from Roman Reigns to Jay because Jimmy, you can kind of give a pass to because he was following orders, kind of thing. I was just doing what I was told, what I thought was best. I was wrong. You're my brother. I love you. Because they have both said that even after they split up. That's my brother. I still love him. I just don't like what he's doing, kind of thing. Roman, on the other
Right.
hand, this was conscious decision time for you. You decided to push me out to do these things. I need a little bit more from you than I need from Jimmy. So hopefully there is some of that going forward in the next few weeks where you get a little bit more contrition and an actual apology before you
From
get the
yeah,
embrace from Roman and everything like that, and then have the full on bloodline. Because again, you've still got to figure out a way to get a fourth person, and if you're going to bring in the entire OG bloodline, you're going to have Jay to get Sammy back. And if Jay's
see,
not fully on board, then that's not happening.
you mentioned Sammy, and I said this. I actually tweeted it out as well. I don't think we need Sammy this time around. I don't. I think you bring in Hikuleo to be that fourth member for Roman's bloodline because I know he's supposed to be coming in eventually,
Mhm.
and the name that's been rumored to be his is gonna be Talatonga or Talatonga or whatever the
Yeah,
I don't know, bro. They got some weird names for the Tongan boys. I mean, I think Tama is the only one that kept his name because I think
yeah,
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Tongaloa was not Tongaloa in New
no,
Japan.
no,
I
no, no.
could be wrong.
It
But,
wasn't.
like yeah, and then Hikuleo is gonna be Tala Tonga or Tala or it's spelled Tala, but I think it's gonna be Tala, I don't but I think you bring him in. The reason I say that, though we don't need Sammy, is because the original Bloodline thing was they were about championships, it was about titles, it was about the keeping the Universal title on Roman, keeping the tag titles on the Usos, this time
Mhm.
around, it's deeper than that. It's about the Ulafala. This time it's Solo, Jacob, Tama, and Tonga, so it's family versus family. And yes, Sammy would bring some comedic relief to the story, but I don't think we need that comedic relief in this
No,
because I
not at
think
all.
it needs to be more personal. It needs to be more uh like because when you think about it, Alpha and Sika were the two that put the Ulafala on Roman. It was the last thing they could ever do for Roman. So to Roman, his father and uncle, the actual elders of the bloodline, were the ones that gifted him and bestowed upon him that moment. So I think because of that, this is more personal for Roman, And I think the Usos understand the family dynamic of, "Nah, man, we didn't see who gave you that. We were in the ring. We saw Uncle Alpha and Uncle Sika give Roman the Ulafala, bestow it upon him. That's his. That's his tribal chief. It's his moment, you know?"
Mm.
I think that's what needs to happen for this bloodline story. Needs to be Roman, Jimmy J. You want to bring in Hikuleo? Maybe. I know people have been talking about Zilla coming in. I don't think he's ready because I don't think he's been on the roster. He's been, you know, in the wrestling for what, a year, maybe a year
Something
and a
like
few
that, yeah.
months. Yeah, I don't think he is ready for that. I think Hikuleo is. I know people say Hikuleo could go to NXT. I don't think he does that. I think he goes to the main roster. I don't want to see him, even though he is the brother of Tama and Tonga. I don't think he needs to join them. And I think it would be more personal if their brother is siding with the OTC and the OG bloodline. And he could be like, you know, our father, their fathers were friends. They were family. That's how we, because the Tongans are islanders, but they're not Samoan.
Mm.
But Roman and Rock have both said, nah, they're family. And they're family because of them being islanders, because of them being part of that culture. So that's what brings that part of the family in. And I think you could just add a lot more without Sammy this time around because I think it has to be more personal for Roman and the bloodline this time. And Sammy, as much as I love him, he is the honorary Oos, but he's not a member of the family.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I really do. I think I I don't know about Hikuleo being in there because I agree. I've heard he was going to NXT first as well. But the issue I would have with it is from the beginning, and they even mentioned it what 2 weeks ago when Jay was on SmackDown when he asked Solo, "Why did you go get these guys? We stayed away from these guys for a reason. We didn't
Right.
bring them into the original bloodline for a reason. So now you bring in somebody else. It kind of just goes against what they've been saying ever since the beginning. And maybe you do it as like, hey, we've got to find somebody else. So maybe we go get our own crazy Tongan away from somewhere else and bring them in. I could see that, but right now the way they have the storyline built, it doesn't make sense for them to go get somebody because that's the whole reason that they don't agree with what Solo did is they went and got people from outside and brought people in that they knew about, as Jay alluded to, but they didn't go get them because of how crazy they were, because of what they represented, what they were doing. They didn't agree with that part, so they didn't bring them in when they brought somebody like Solo in. Um, I think Hikuleo would be a good add to it. I think it would be an interesting dynamic with it being Solo and the Tongans, and then you have the Usos and Hikuleo because Solo is the Usos' brother, Hikuleo is the Tongans' brother. I think that's an interesting dynamic between them all. And then
And
you
then
have
you got
Jacob and
Jacob
Roman.
as
Yeah,
cousins. Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
I
I see your point as far as like the outsider, like bringing in somebody, but maybe they look at it like this, like you've got because I think Jay is about to go crash out, be like the psychotic, like, you know, judge, jury, executioner, like the promo he cut on Roman that he was going
mm,
to do to Roman at SummerSlam. That's the Jay. That's the wheels turning. That Jay is going to be that psychotic, just absolutely unleashed, like wild card for this bloodline, kind of like he was when they faced. Was it Judgment Day? They faced, or no, the Brawling Brutes when they faced them in Survivor Series, and you had Jay and Pete Dunne be the two that started. Like, I think that's going to be the Jay that we get, but I don't think Jimmy matches that level of psychoticness and craziness. Like, I think he's more like Tongaloa. It's like he can be crazy, but he's not going to go be wild and crazy if he has, unless he has to. I think Jay matches Tama more, and then I think you could bring in Hikuleo as like that's the psychotic dude that can mess up Jacob. That's the dude that could go take out Jacob. And then you have Jay and Hikuleo be the psychotic ones. Plus, like you said, with Jay and Jimmy being Solo's brother, they know everything that Solo does. They know Solo's everything about him. Hikuleo, same way. He knows everything about the Tongans. He knows every move they're gonna make. He knows what they're thinking. So I think that would be a cool dynamic because I've seen Hikuleo wrestle, and I
Mhm.
think out of him, Tama, and Tonga, he's the best one in my opinion. At least the most like skillful one. And again, like I think Jay is about to go on that psychotic mode, and I think uh they need somebody to match that. Sammy would be cool, but I don't think Sammy. It's not personal enough for Sammy to be like, I can be crazy too. I can be psychotic too. Like I don't think it's personal for Sammy because he liked Solo. He liked him. And like you said, though, Jay bringing up, I like how he did this, though. He went, why'd you have to go get them? Why'd you have to go get Jacob?
Mhm.
Almost like pointing out, Jacob's the one dude we didn't want to bring in, and that's the guy you bring in. Which, the way commentary, and I credit Corey Graves for this, the way they've talked about Jacob being like, he's not supposed to be out in public, he's not supposed to be around people.
Yeah.
You can say the same thing for what Jay's about to do. Like, I think Jay is about to crash out and be like, absolutely just destroy everything that's in his way. So I do think you bring in Hikuleo, he could be the same thing for. He could be the Jacob to Jay's Tamatanga, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, and they could definitely do that, but I think if they do that, that would be the perfect like, so say you've got, the Usos and Roman, if they have that match, they end up getting beat by the Tongans just because it's 4 on 3. They get beat
Right.
by the New Bloodline, come back on SmackDown the next week, and Jimmy and Jay are both saying, "Look, man, there's 3 of us here now, there's 4 of them, we've gotta do something. What do we do? What do we do? We've burnt every other bridge here in WWE." I tried to talk to Sammy on Monday night. He's not having it. Maybe they do a backstage segment where Jay says something to Sammy now that he's back in the fold. And Sammy's like, "No,
Yeah.
man, I'm good. I've got other things I want to worry about. I'm not getting sucked back into
I've
that."
I've moved past the bloodline, yeah.
Exactly. So without having anybody else, Roman makes a phone call. And he holds up his phone. Call the wise man.
Yeah.
And the wise man is the one that brings Hikuleo in because he's always been the guy that had the plan. He's always been the guy that knows best. And maybe even if you wait until like the week before Survivor Series and you have you have Paul Heyman come out the SmackDown before Survivor Series because it's like who's going to be their partner? They've already agreed to this War Games match. Nobody wants to tag with them. Everything else is Cody's got stuff going on. Everybody else has stuff going on. The Wiseman shows up the Friday before. You introduce him there, and then he just lays out the entire bloodline, the Hikuleo that is, and that's after Paul Heyman introduces him, does the whole spiel. My name is Paul Heyman. You get that pop, and I am the representative of the only tribal chief, and on his order, I present to you Tala Tonga, and he just goes crazy. And he actually is the one that goes against Jacob as far as being the crazy one,
Yeah.
just as the last second. And then he goes into War Games, and that's how they do it. Then even if you wanted to send him to NXT after War Games, since after uses his spot, he can go down and be a credible heel because they need more heels in NXT anyway. I've talked about it on my show on Thursday night. They
Yeah.
need more people in more viable people in NXT anyway. You could let him come in, destroy the bloodline, do that, and then have Roman send him down because he's just not ready yet, or something like that.
See, I like your idea of bringing like how they do that with Paul Heyman being the one that makes the phone call, being the one that brings him in for Roman. But I kind of want them to do it like they did with Randy last year, where you kind of you tease it, and maybe you throughout the weeks you have Roman asking like Cody, and Cody like, nah, man, I got to deal with Kevin. You got Randy, and Randy's like, hey, I no, just because like I don't trust you. I know Cody does, but I don't. You could have him, with Sammy. With if you wanted to, you could maybe see if Jimmy could like talk to Xavier Woods and be like, "Hey, man, you ain't got anything going on. We could use you." just because like Woods is kind of on that heel trajectory right now.
Mhm.
Or same with like Kofi, or maybe you could have Jimmy even talk to like Montez, since you brought up Montez earlier. Maybe the Usos go talk to the Street Profits and be like, hey guys, we could really use one of y'all. You know, Montez, you can kind of be crazy sometimes. You do some crazy stuff. We could use you. And Montez is like, nah, I don't trust y'all, or something like that. But
Mhm.
then you get to that show and Paul Heyman comes out and he's kind of Roman's, give me the mic, and the crowd acknowledges Roman, and then he's like, wise man, tell him the plan, and you could have Paul like look nervous almost, and be like, and you can even have Paul, because he's done this before, like commit to not sleeping the night before,
Mhm.
so he's even more just drained, and he could be like, my tribal chief, he's gonna be here in time for the match, but he's not here tonight. His flight got delayed, and you could have Roman almost revert back to that, just like screaming and cussing everybody out. And then you get to the match, and it's Jimmy and Jay and Roman in the cage, and you've got the four from the OG bloodline, and you could have Jay and Thomas start, and then you could have Jimmy and Tonga Loa, and then you could have Roman go in and Solo go in, and then you add Jacob in, and they're beating the crap out of each other, and then the alarm goes off, the cage lights up, there's nobody there. Well, where is he? And then the bloodline's just the Timu bloodline, or the fake bloodline, is just beating up on Roman and the Usos, and then all of a sudden you hear the music and he walks out with Paul Heyman, and Heyman's just got like a smile on his face, and he's like, I told you, my tribal chief, he would be here. And that's how they present him. Because I think if you do it the night before, it kind of takes away the intrigue of like, well, we already know he can take out those guys. We already know he's on. But if you wait, then you don't know if they really have help or not, because you don't know if the wise man. Because there could be a twist where the wise man isn't really on Roman's side. Maybe he's on
Yeah.
Solo's side because he's so scared of Solo and Jacob that through this transition of him not being on, he's completely changed his mind.
Good
So
point.
that could be something that fans question, like, okay, is Paul really trying to help, or is he helping Solo behind the scenes? And even Roman could question it because he's questioned Paul before with like Lesnar. You could be like, are why didn't you tell me he wasn't going to be here tonight though? Like you told me you'd have this handled by tonight, and he's not here tonight. I think that's the better way to bring Hikuleo in than to just have him show up the night before and take out everybody. So I think that's how you should spin it, is have him not be there, have them wait until the night of, then have him come out. And Paul could even like drop a line like his flight from Japan got delayed. And then boom, that tells the fans, oh, so it's gonna be Hikuleo. Kind of like they said, like when Cody was talking about Randy and he was like, we have the apex predator on our side. Like you could do
Mhm.
something like that. Or you could have Paul even tell the Tongans, like, it's someone you know very, very well. And then fans can pick up, oh, that's gonna be the their brother. Kinda like Cody did when he teased when he had The Rock come out and he told Roman that it was somebody Roman knew very well that wanted to face him. Like you could have it spin that way, or like you said, you could have him just show up night before and annihilate everybody, and then go into the match with banged up and beat up Tongans
Well, and annihilate
beforehand.
everybody. I would say that that may be in the match. When you bring him out the night before, I guess maybe I misspoke. When you bring him out the night before, you just let him run them off. That way, now you know it's even team.
Yeah.
You know it's 4-on-4 now. You know, and I think the only reason you do it is is you want to gauge how the fans are going to react, and you'd rather do that on a SmackDown than on the PLE itself. You know, I don't know that they want to wait until War Games itself, debut Hikuleo or Tala Tonga at the very end, and then get no pop, no reaction, no anything. So I think if you do it the night before, it kind of lets you gauge that at first and lets the fans see, okay, well, this is somebody who's going to at least even the odds. So now when we go into tomorrow night, we know that there's going to be an even playing field. So now we see who wins. So maybe he doesn't come in and annihilate everybody, but he does at least come in and even the odds and makes the new bloodline kind of step back and go, oh crap.
Especially
Now we
like
got to,
with the Tongans being like, "That's our brother. Why isn't he on our side?"
yeah.
Yeah,
And you
I
may
can
even
see
want to do
that.
it a week or two before so you can build that up. Commentary, like you said, Corey Graves does a great job. Go, oh my God, that's their brother. But doing that one night to where maybe you do it a week or two, I don't know that you want to do it that far back. But it's one of the things why Triple H gets paid to do this, and we sit here and talk about it on YouTube, really. 'Cause
Right.
but I yeah, because it's that fine line that it's hard to do because you want to make sure that everybody knows. Well, this is the Tongan's brother, so he could be as crazy as those guys, but you want to have that surprise factor as well.
You mentioned doing it a couple weeks before. You could do something where, like, he's kinda stalking them from behind, and you see this guy, and you don't know what he's doing, and he's not with Roman or the Usos, so he's just kind of backstage just stalking Solo and the Tongans, and then you could have, like, Tama and Tonga, like, walking backstage, and then he just pops up, and they're like, "You're here for us. You're here to help us." And then he just walks away, and then, like, they're just kinda, like, teasing, like, "Who is this guy?" And then you could maybe even have Solo call him out. Like, the Tongans go back and tell Solo, "Hey, our brother's around, maybe see if he'll work with us." Have them call him out, and then uh, he could be like, "I acknowledge Roman." Like, he could tell them he acknowledges Roman, and then you could have that, like, them questioning, like, "Why are you going with Roman? Why aren't you acknowledging Solo?" Like, and have him kinda get beat down a little bit, and then have the Usos and Roman come out and help him. So then you see, "Oh, they're legitimately a team. This is Roman's," and then you could have Roman be like, "This was the plan all along. You had a plan. I always have a plan B," and kinda steal a line from Triple H.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
mean, and
think
there's no right way to do it. We could book it 100 different ways. The way just because every time you start going through something, or I got started, I can see your mind too. We start getting different ideas. Well, no, they could do it that way, but they could change it like this. It's it really just goes to show how hard booking a wrestling show is when again we're just
oh,
sitting here
yeah.
talking. There's nothing behind it, where the whole shoulders of the company lies on your shoulders, and you're having to book this stuff. So I mean, and that's why we love wrestling. I mean, that's why we watch it. Whether you're
Yeah.
a fan of AEW, WWE, whatever. Seeing those stories and things like that, and how it's going to progress is what makes it so great. Is because we can do this a million ways, and who's to
Yeah.
say which one's right and which one's wrong? I mean, that's what we love about it.
Oh, no, for sure, and like you said, like, when I was talking, I could see kinda like the gears in your, brain turning like, "Oh, wait, they could do it." But like you said, like, that's why we don't get paid to deal with the stress of booking the show and making, 6'3", Samoans happy with the way we book. Because I can imagine that's gotta be a little treacherous when Triple H is, like, telling Roman, "So, you're gonna get destroyed tonight, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have
So
Solo just devour you." And, he's 'cause I could literally see Roman being like, "Yeah, that doesn't work for me.
yeah, nah, bro.
That's not the plan. Well, we're gonna have the Tongans take out Jimmy, so then you won't have any help. But I really wanna punch Solo." Like, I you know, there's a million different ways you could book it. I hope however they end up doing it, it's gonna be great because obviously Triple H has done a great job so far with everything that he's booked and especially this story. I can't wait for the pay-per-view. I do hope that six-man match happens, and if it does, later this week, we're supposed to do our Crown Jewel prediction, so I'll definitely see if you can come on, at a later date and do that with us. I appreciate you being on. Uh, Tell everybody where they can find you, and, shout out Title Towel. I see you've got them in the background there.
Yeah, definitely. Tyler's always been a great supporter of me and Herb and Raj, the Herb and Raj podcast, which I do a lot with. Uh, So shout out to those guys. Get ready for some football this afternoon. You can find me at underscore Big Mike 27 on X. That is where my YouTube as well, which is it's the Run in Wrestling podcast with me and Sped Rock is my co-host. We do a live show every Thursday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. It will be changing this week, just so this is the first promo I get to do for it. We're actually moving it to Wednesday night, so Sped can play dad and go trick or treating with his kids. Obviously, we want to be able to have our family time. So we are going to do our show on Wednesday this week, but it's normally on Thursdays, 9, 8 Central, on at underscore Big Mike 27 or the Run in Wrestling podcast on YouTube.
All right, man. Again, I appreciate you being on here. I hope eventually I can come on your channel and do some stuff with
Definitely.
you guys over there on the Running Wrestling podcast. I've been watching a lot of your stuff, a lot of y'all's stuff. I like what y'all are doing. I like the vibe there, and hopefully this becomes a great working partnership between my channel and my guys, and then your channel and your guys, and we can all maybe do like a big collab one day where both channels are live at the same time, and it'd be very cool to do that and have everybody kind of on at once. If that's something your partner would be interested in.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time uh, kind of early this morning. I was trying to get it to be in the afternoon, but we've got my cousin's got like a party plan for tonight that there's gonna be so many people here, I wouldn't be able to do anything. And then you said this afternoon, obviously, you're spending some time, and hopefully Alabama wins. We'll see.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I had to do it this morning, and I'm gonna go off live here, and then in about 30 minutes be live again. So I'm just grinding, man. I'm just trying to work my way up to get as big as possible. And thank you to anybody who watches, all the commenters. Thank y'all. I know we didn't cover the comments as much as we normally do, but we had a lot of stuff to cover and not a whole lot of time to do it. I think, we're at an hour and 26 minutes, so that's pretty good for timing because usually it can go 2 to 3 hours when you're talking wrestling. Uh, so I appreciate everybody for commenting. We will get to comments later. Obviously, you guys, if you saw my announcement, yes, we did have a member of the podcast leave us. Um, not replacing him. We're not replacing him. He is a great friend of ours. We wish him nothing but the best in his YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is Absolute Razor. If you want to go check it out, he makes gaming content. He's a very good YouTuber. Good friend of mine. So it hurts that he's leaving us, but he is, unfortunately. But it's probably best for all parties at this point that he steps away. We move on with what we're doing, and it'll all work itself out. Maybe we'll have him back on one day. Maybe we won't. I don't know what his mindset is or where he's at, but we'll figure that out. And I hope to have you back on eventually, man.
Yes, sir.
Uh, and again, man, thank you for joining me today. Thank you guys for viewing, watching, subscribing. Make sure you can support the channel by sending tips and donations are always welcome on the Cash App. And seriously, guys, StreamYard has raised their rate again. It was like 25, now it's like $50 a month. It's insane, and that's for like the basic. That's for the base. Like that's what I have is basic, and it is so much freaking money, bro. It's so ridiculous. But at the same time, man, I enjoy it. Like I love talking wrestling. I love doing this stuff. I love having guests on. Again, I appreciate you being on here. Shout out to JB and Sports Talking with JB because he is the one that introduced us and got this conversation started. So shout out to him. Shout out to JT as well. Shout out to the Bama Standard Network. All of you guys, all of you kill it. Y'all do a great job over there. I'd love to be a guest on a show one day. I love Bama football, so be great to talk some Bama football. Roll Tide, and let's enjoy this Saturday if we can, depending on how the game goes. It's probably, you know what, bro? It's probably good we did it in the morning because depending on how this game goes, tonight may not have been a good day for anybody anyway.
Yeah, my analysis could have very well changed if Alabama loses this afternoon. I
Yeah,
may have
no, for
hated every
sure.
match at this point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man, I appreciate it. I'm gonna hit end stream here, and we will be done.